It is time to complete our Goodreads Choice Awards shenanigans for 2024. This is now part 3, so if you missed my TBR where I chose challenges out of a jar to pick all of the books that I'm reading for this vlog series, we read one from every category that's not young adult. We had a great time picking them, so if you missed that, I will link it in the description. And then we also read the first 6 books in part 1, which went up last week, so this week we're reading the remaining 7 categories. And because we have 7 books to read, I'm just gonna get to it, so I will see you for our first book. I have started reading our audiobook selection, which is maybe this time. This is a 5-star prediction. The 5-star prediction category that is fulfilling is Unhinged and The Fabric of Reality. Now, when I originally created this list, I meant like the uncanny and in a horror sense, but I stand by my selection because this is a wormhole time travel book and we are following our 2 main characters who are living 85 years apart. And the premise of this is that our girly pop who's stuck in the future is only able to have this one line of communication, and she's able to call this guy from her past from 4 weeks before she fell into this wormhole. She's basically trying to convince him to befriend her from the past so that he can stop her from falling into the wormhole, so she doesn't end up stuck there in the future. I'm gonna be super honest with you guys. I am unfortunately finding our main characters a little bit annoying. The audiobook production quality is really high. There's a full cast, got sound effects and everything going on. I think it's really well produced. I do just find our female main character a little bit too sunshiny. I don't know, I feel like all the actors are just maybe a little bit over enthusiastic and it's coming across a little bit cheesy, but it's a romance. It's kind of supposed to be cheesy. So I'm trying to lean into the cheese, but it is just a little bit annoying. But I think the audiobook production quality is great. So if you typically are a rom-com girly pop, maybe you'll love this. I'm gonna find out how it ends and then we'll talk about it. Our audiobook has been completed. I am giving it 3 stars. I'm giving it 3 stars. I think it's cute and fun, and if you want to spend a couple hours of your time enjoying a nice audiobook, I think this is a good way to spend it. I don't think it's the best written thing. I think the plot is very predictable, very straightforward. I'm glad this was nominated in the audiobook category because it was obviously nominated for the audiobook quality because the production quality is very high. It's a full cast, there are sound effects and everything. It does feel a little bit overacted, especially in the beginning of the audiobook. I don't know if that was just me getting used to it or if the narrators toned it down just a little bit, but it did just feel a little bit much for me. It's very sweet, it's very chaste, it's a nice little romance. It has a little bit of Back to the Future vibes at the end there. I like it when in a romance it's not just about the romance and we also pay attention to what's happening in the rest of their lives. So both of our characters are teachers and we got to really get a sense of, one of them is a PE teacher, one of them is an English teacher, and that really shows in their personalities. Like, our male love interest is very much an athlete and he uses that hobby and that skill to work things out, and vice versa for our female love interest who uses English and poetry to do that. It is funny because our male love interest, because of the premise of this book, is getting to know 2 different versions of the same person, which is so strange because he's getting to know this woman in the future where her circumstances have changed her because of this horrible thing that happened to her. She's stuck in the future, and he's also getting to know her at a point in time where she does not like him, and she doesn't like him for really annoying reasons. Like, she's a little bit jealous of him and that's why she doesn't like him, and it's just interesting to watch him go through that mental gymnastics of liking one version of her better but also understanding that she's all the same person. And I just thought that was interesting because oftentimes we only know somebody for a year or 2 before we decide that we want to spend the rest of our lives with them, and like knowing that that person is going to change based on the circumstances that they are in, but that they're also always going to be that person. It's just kind of a weird thing to wrap your brain around, and I guess time travel is the way to explore that in a romance book. This was silly. It's not going to make you think any profound thoughts. I had a nice time, but it's pretty forgettable. So I wouldn't say that this is like the #1 hard-hitting romance you need to read this year. But if you're looking for romance and you've got a couple hours to kill and you want a great audiobook, I would recommend it. And now, as promised in the outro of last week's video, Dan and I are about to go ride some horses through a waterfall I guess. So I will take you guys along for that journey. It should be fun. That was so much fun. Once again, it was just me, Dan, and we had our 2 guides this time. They were both 14 and they're very fun, and took us through the jungle to this waterfall, and we swam in the waterfall. You saw it. It was incredible. Our butts hurt a lot, but we had a really good time. And now I need to send you to me from the past to chat about our history biography selection. I am, I want to say maybe 20% of the way into this, and I'm eating this up. This feels like I'm back in college. I don't think this is gonna work for everyone. It's definitely not one of those nonfiction books that is super easy to just like let it wash over you and everything is broken down super easily. You don't have to have any background in the subject. This feels like a university lecture because it's written by a Columbia professor. My favorite class that I took in college was called Hauntology and the Southern Gothic, and it basically is this book, because this is the history of horror from an American perspective. And so we have started, much like a university class might, at the very beginning of American history with England and the colonies, and talking about all of the fears that people were experiencing, both of fear of the other and fear of Native Americans, and also fear of the devil and all of the religious fears that were going on. All of that was interesting, but I'm not gonna lie, a little bit dense. I am happy to be now in more modern times where I'm getting to interact with some authors and stories that I have heard of before. We've talked about Poe. We have now gotten to The Yellow Wallpaper, which is one of my favorite short stories of all time, and are slowly making our way towards more modern things. The audiobook for this I love because, once again, it's written by a professor. These are things that he's used to lecturing about, and he's narrating the audiobook, so I'm really enjoying that. He's speaking quite quickly in it, so I'm only putting it at 1.5 times speed, and that's much slower than I usually listen to audiobooks. I'm usually 1.8 or a 2 times speed girly, so I'm really intrigued, interested. I'm not gonna lie to you, there are some things that are going right over my head, but thankfully I don't have to take a test on this, so I can just pluck out the little nuggets of wisdom that I want to and leave the rest. My plan for this one, because it is a little bit denser, is I'm just gonna read a chapter or 2 every day on audio, and I will just check in with you guys probably at the end of it when I have more thoughts to share. So far, a little bit dense, loving the audiobook. Feel like I'm back in college, wishing I had class tomorrow so I could talk about it. This was really good. I think it was a lot of information coming at me very fast, and I would have loved to like take this class and sit for a whole semester and just like dive into all of these different things and see a beautiful PowerPoint presentation from this professor. As a book, I think it was one of those things where, especially in the earlier sections, a lot of it was kind of going over my head. I didn't really understand a lot of the references. Would have been great to slow down, once again, if I was not reading this for a video, to slow down and go and read some of the short stories that were talked about that I wasn't familiar with and kind of dig into the history a little bit more. But as we got more modern, and especially the last chapter, I had read most of the books that we were talking about, or at least heard of them, or I had watched most of the movies that we were talking about. And I've just never really had that feeling before where someone is referencing so many things in a book and I know all of the references. I felt like I had a really big brain, and that made me feel good. I always feel like kind of a horror aficionado imposter a little bit, because I don't actually watch a ton of horror movies, but I do really love horror books and the horror that I choose to engage with, but I feel like I don't read a lot of it or watch a lot of of it in terms of like everything that's out there. So my review of this is, if you're a fan of horror books, TV, movies, media, I think you're gonna get a lot out of this. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you are very new to the horror genre, I don't think this is the book that is gonna like inspire you to be a part of it, because it is just a lot of references. So it's not gonna be something that's super easy for you to get into if you're not already in that space, if that makes sense. But I had a great time with it. I don't really feel great rating this because it's a history biography and it's not a genre that I read a lot of. But if I had to, I think I'm gonna give it like a 3.25. I had a good time with it, especially with the latter chapters, but it is pretty hard to get into. It's pretty dense. Not something I think I'll recommend widely. So, history biography completed. We have completed our first 2 books in this video. We have been told that there is a festival happening tonight in this town that we are living in, so we're gonna go check that out. I think there's a parade, which should be fun. I'll take some footage of that if I can, and I will see you guys back here to start our next book. It is time to pick our romantasy book, and we'll be selecting it based off of a 1-star review. I have some honorable mentions here to share with you because they were too funny for me to leave out of this video. So, for the blood of Hercules, curiosity did in fact kill the cat. A fan of Phantasma says, I'm not into ghost dick, sorry. Emma Davis says, the only redeeming quality of this book is that it ends. There is more chemistry between 2 pieces of whole wheat toast than the main characters. At one point, the main character wanted to sacrifice herself, and I was rooting for her. You can only imagine my disappointment when she survived. And for the Veiled Kingdom, just plotware. The tagline for this review, hilarious. Glorifying colonialism for the sake of a forbidden romance. 2024 Goodreads Choice Awards nomination. And a bonus for this book, it's very unfortunate that we can't virtually throw tomatoes on a book, so I'll have to stick with the 1-star review. One last honorable mention for Feybound. He wielded his jawline like a weapon. I'm a head out. In the book that we are reading, because I have decided to choose happiness, and instead of reading a book that would be hilarious to watch me read as a viewer because I know I'm gonna hate it, I have decided to choose something that I think I'm actually going to enjoy. So the 1-star review I am choosing is, guys, I tapped out at mer horses. You can't be serious. I am in fact very serious about mer horses. I want to see a mermaid horse creature. Another 1-star review mentioned winged cats, which I am very intrigued in. But this review is really what solidified my decision to read this book. Anytime someone gets so upset about a book that they have to give it 1 star because of the pronoun preferences of characters in the book, they're saying a sentient cactus that has pronoun preferences is not acceptable, and I for one would like to meet said sentient cactus. I did also find a 5-star review just to give us the other side of the coin. And Robin says, screw capitalism, I want whatever this is. A cute shop where I sell spells and make jam, and a hot man builds me floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. So that is the book that I have selected. I'm going to jump on reading sprints with my channel members, which I am very excited about, and then I will let you guys know my initial thoughts on the Spellshop. We are not feeling good today, morale is low, but I did finish the Spellshop yesterday, and I did have a really lovely time with it. I'm giving it 4 stars. I think it was exactly the kind of book that I'm looking for when I want to escape for a day and when I'm feeling sad or stressed, and I just want everything to mostly go well for our main character, and I want everyone in the little town that she's moving to help her, and I want her to make friends and find silly little creatures to befriend. That's what I want. This is not a literary masterpiece. The plot is very convenient. Everything works out very quickly for everyone. It's a cozy story. If you like cozy stories, I think you're gonna love this one. The romance is very slow burn and it is very chaste, which is interesting being in romantasy. I think our main characters smooch twice in the entire book, and the first smooch happens at like 70% of the way into the book. So this being nominated in the romantasy category is very interesting to me. I loved it. I had a great time with it. I tend to like cozier romances more than I like the enemies to lovers toxicity that usually comes out of romantasy, which if you love that, I'm happy for you. It's typically just not the vibe of thing that I like. So I'm happy that I ended up finding something in romantasy that fits my taste. I did really like this plot of our librarian fleeing the big city when the library is burnt down with her assistant who is a sentient spider plant. They both are ending up on this island where she used to grow up and going back to her old house that she used to live in and meeting some people that she knew from childhood and rekindling those relationships and forging new relationships and trying to figure out what business she's going to start and how she's going to help the people of this island. And there are a lot of themes in here of how to do the right thing even when it is very difficult to do so or might harm you in the process. And I always think that that is an interesting conversation of how much good can you do while still having self-preservation instincts. And this book seems to take the line that everyone is good deep down inside, and if you do good things to other people, they will do good things to you, which in the current state of the media that I'm seeing out there, I found to be very refreshing, because that is unfortunately not the reality that we're seeing in media or that we see in day-to-day life. So it was nice to see a situation in which characters were trusting each other to make the right decision and good was always prevailing. I had a good time with it. I'm sorry to all of the people who wrote 1-star reviews who did not have a good time with it. I hope you find a book that you do like. Okay, moving on. I think I'm going to be spending most of the day in bed because I am in pain. So our task for today is to read the entirety of Welcome to the Hyunam-dong bookshop. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please correct me if I'm not. I know nothing about this besides that it is our pick for fiction because you guys wanted me to read it. This is another one of the categories that you chose. So let's take it easy today, have a slow day, read our cozy little book. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Alright, this book is very, very sweet. I have to show you at the beginning of every chapter there's a cute little illustration of a sign and it has a book and a coffee on it. And at the end of every chapter there's this cute little illustration. It's very, very sweet. I love reading Korean and Japanese books. I feel like they are blunt in a very gentle way. I don't know if it's the translation from those languages into English that makes it that way, or if it's a cultural thing, or if it's a mixture of both. But I do really love how nothing is really happening, and we're also having all these big questions about how to follow your dreams and what to do if you're not living up to your parents' expectations, and why do we spend all this time studying and go to college if we don't know or think that that's going to get us what we want? What do we do when we achieve our dreams but it doesn't feel like enough? How do we really strive to be really good at something? And also just living our mundane little lives. I'm having a really great time with it. I am almost halfway through. This day has been brutal. I just spent the past 3 hours just unable to move in so much pain. So this book is making that better. I had to stop for a little bit because I couldn't even focus on the audiobook, but I'm feeling much better now. We are back to reading the physical copy of this. And I'm excited to watch our bookstore owner and the barista who works there and see what they get up to in the second half of this book. The rest of this day was rough. I spent it in bed, in pain, unable to do much of anything. So let's talk about this book while I share this sweet little crab that we found on the beach. In some ways, this was the perfect book to read on a day like this because it reminded me of why I love books so much. Here's a quote I want to share. "Reading makes you see with clear eyes and understand the world better. When you do that, you become stronger, the feeling you associate with success, but at the same time, with pain. Within the pages, there's much suffering, beyond that we've gone through in our finite experience of life. You'll read about suffering you didn't know existed. Having experienced their pain through words, it becomes a lot harder to focus on pursuing individual happiness and success. Reading makes you deviate further from the textbook definition of success because books don't make us go ahead of or above anyone else. They guide us to stand alongside others." On a day like today, a rewriting of success was exactly what I needed, and if you're also in need of that message, I highly encourage you to pick this up and learn about our bookstore owner and the barista working there. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. And now, somewhat aptly, it's time to read our nonfiction book about pain and disability. We need to talk about our nonfiction book. I kept waiting to update you until I was liking it, and then I never really was enjoying it, and I never updated you, but I have finished it. And actually this sun is going down rapidly, so let me move you over here where it'll be easier to see. Okay, so here's the situation with this book. I feel so weird rating an essay collection that is so clearly about someone's life and their pain and also their joy and the things that they find comfort in and the things that they feel like they want to say and leave a legacy with. And I really wanted to like this, especially because I am someone who experiences chronic pain, and in this video had a few days where I was wiped out and unable to do things, and I was really hoping that this book would give me some hope or at least some commiseration in those moments, and unfortunately just really wasn't for me. I think maybe I would have felt differently if I had just been reading like one essay over the course of an entire month. Obviously that's not something I could do filming for this video, but there were a couple of things that I did enjoy. I don't want to really dwell on the things that I didn't enjoy. So really quick, the things that didn't work for me: I think it was too long. I think it needed to be edited quite a bit. It was very repetitive in the ideas that we had to say. I thought the points generally were good, and I wish it had been more concise so that they would have hit harder. I didn't really enjoy all of the graphic sexual content in here, but that is my personal preference. Here are the things that I did enjoy about it. There was an essay titled Letter to a Young Doctor, and I thought it was incredible. It was a letter written to a young doctor about care and how you give care to someone in a system that is very broken and very difficult to actually give care through, when that is your whole job description as a doctor, is wanting to help people, and then the system makes it very difficult for you to do that. I thought that was very well done. There was a lot in here about fighting and UFC and boxing, a lot in here about kink, a lot in here about art, astrology, gender. And the thing that I think I liked the most about was our author was saying that they went to a metal concert and they love metal music, and when they got there, the accessibility tool that they were given at this metal concert was just like a wooden stool that they could sit on. And so they put the stool down and they were there. And then this metal concert, the mosh pit got pretty intense, and they were saying how these other people who were around them really helped them and protected them and made sure that they were safe in those moments. And as a Warped Tour girly and as a punk and metal listener, I can say for sure that I've never felt safer than in those situations, because people are just so protective over other fans at these music venues and shows, and I thought that was a really cool moment that our author included in here. So overall, not for me. I'm not gonna rate it. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna recommend it widely, but I definitely don't want to discourage anyone from picking it up. If the things that I outlined seem interesting to you, then I think you should pick it up. And now I need some chaotic goodness in my life, so let's go have a dog pick our next book. Hello, we have acquired an animal who's going to pick us our book. I have all 20 of the books in front of me, so Dan's gonna pick two numbers between 1 and 20. The dog is gonna choose which number we're gonna pick, and that's gonna be that. Dan, I need two numbers between 1 and 20.
They're 13 and 3.
Here's a piece of lamb pepperoni. What did you say, 13 and?
3.
Okay, this is 13, and this is 3. My friend, I have 2 pieces of sausage. She has picked 13. Thank you very much. Would you like another piece of sausage? There you go. This lovely little dog followed us home from the restaurant, and so now I am feeding her my pizza. She's a very sweet girl. Okay, so the book we are reading is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's going to be Voyage of the Damned, which is apparently a TikTok sensation, so I'm horrified. Thank you for choosing my book. A murder mystery on a ship full of magical passengers. How fun is that?
A lot of fun.
Everybody say thank you to our beautiful assistant. She's gonna have a nap. Hello, I have bad news. I don't like this book at all. I find our main character so incredibly annoying, and this is feeling so young adult to me. We're reading this because of debut. Thank you to Pepper for picking it for me. But it was also nominated in the fantasy category, which makes it the second book nominated in the fantasy category that we are reading in this video series. that is also a murder mystery. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but that is in fact what happened. We're in this world, each province is represented by an animal. So they're humans, but they have like an animal. So our main character is Fish Province. We've got Bear Province and Grasshopper Province and Spider Province and all of the different animals. There's also a goddess who has blessings to bestow upon people. So each of these children, basically, that we're following, have just inherited their parents' blessing, and they are now going to this summit situation to like take over as leaders of their provinces, because once they inherit the blessings, then their parents lose the blessings and then die shortly thereafter. They don't live very long because of the blessing. Anyways, that's the situation that we're starting from. Our main character has a secret. He's not like everybody else. He's also lusting after one of these other people, which is fine. I love a romance subplot, but the way that he is acting, incredibly teenage annoying. I think he's 23. He's one of the older people on this boat. There are basically people anywhere from 6 years old all the way up to, I think he might be the oldest one, 23. It's feeling so young adult. It's feeling very angsty and complainy and like teenage rebellion stuff. I think I would have liked it as a young adult, like as a 16-year-old depressed, angsty teen. I would have eaten this up. I would have loved it. But like me now, a whole adult, I don't really know. It's not landing for me. I hope it gets better, but I'm not really enjoying it so far, and I'm really sad to say that because I feel like this has been going really well thus far. And now the last two books we read, I don't like them. We're not landing on a strong note. The only thing we have left to read is memoir, and I'm terrified of reading memoir. So I don't know. I'll see you guys when I finish it. I have finished reading Voyage of the Damned. I did not like it. I'm gonna give it 2 stars. It gets 1 star for the character of Grasshopper because she is the most adorable 6-year-old I have ever met in literature. And then it gets 1 star for the last 15% of the book because I did think that was enjoyable. I still rolled my eyes a couple times, but the plot that was afoot was interesting to follow. It had a murder mystery plot. It also had, of course, some other plots going on underneath that because of that. I think this is young adult. We were dealing with young adult themes, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not something that I personally am wanting to read right now. I want to try to explain why this didn't work for me and something like horror movie really did, because they're both primarily following young characters who are dealing with depression and suicidal ideation, and the way it was done in horror movie really worked for me, and the way it was done in this book just really didn't. So I'm giving it 2 stars. And now we can move on to something more exciting because the winners have been announced, and I need to send you to me from the past so we can see my live reactions to all of the winners and find out what book we're reading for memoir. The winners have been announced. Let's take a look at them together. I am so excited to see who won and also to find out which memoir we're reading because we're reading the winner. So let me scoot over here so you can see. Okay, here we go. I am so shocked that Sally Rooney did not win the fiction category, and by a lot, and I DNF'd The Wedding People. Okay, moving on to historical fiction. The Women by Kristen Hanna, I think we could have guessed that. This is by the author of The Nightingale. I am very sad to see The Bullet Swallower 3 from the bottom though, because that was a really good book and I want more people to read that. On to mystery thriller. I think we could have guessed God of the Woods. That one has been super, super popular lately. No surprises there. On to romance. Funny Story 1. I think we all could have guessed that as well. But I am very happy to see Just for the Summer Beating Up Bride by Allie Hazelwood. Romantasy category, what do we think it's gonna be? It's probably gonna be like a Sarah J Maas or who else? Jennifer L. Armentrout, I think is her name. She's got a series that people love. I don't think a Fourth Wing book came out this year. Yeah, it's a Sarah J Maas, okay. And the second Apprentice to the Villain, which I've seen a lot of people loving, a lot of people hating, is on there. Spellshop is not too far down there, which is exciting. Fantasy category, what do we think it's gonna be? What did we read? We read Tainted Cup, which people are loving. It did make it into top 10, which is exciting. I would love for it to win. I think it's one of the best fantasy books I've read in a long time, and I also think it's one of the best murder mystery books I've read in a long time, so would love to see that win. I don't know if I don't think it will though. Yeah, the TJ Klune one. Okay. Followed by The Familiar and the second Emily Wilde, The Book of Doors. Wow, The Tainted Cup is so far down there. More people need to read The Tainted Cup. That was so good. And more people need to read A Sorceress Comes to Call. That was fantastic. Okay, on to science fiction. I'm so mad that the Ministry of Time won. I really hated that book. I'm sorry. I would like to read this John Mars. I loved both The One and The Passengers by him. Not surprised to see Annie Bot up there. What did we read? I don't think our book made the top 10. No, it didn't make the top 10, and it's second from the bottom, which I think kind of makes sense. Okay, moving on to horror. What do we think is gonna win? The Stephen King question mark? I would love if I was a teenage slasher one. That's what I want to win. We'll see. There's a lot of good stuff in horror this year. Yeah, the Stephen King one. Okay. But We Used to Live Here is number 2. Wow, I'm so happy to see that get so many readers. The T. Kingfisher is up there. Murder Road is up there. Followed by the Chuck Tingle. Okay, this is not what I expected. I am happy to see I Was a Teenage Slasher in the top 10 though. But it is number 8. So, okay, interesting. Debut is next. I always love the debut category. How to End a Love Story, a romance debut. Interesting. You guys let me know, have you read How to End a Love Story? Is it something on your radar? Is it something I should pick up? Debut category is always just so interesting because it's a mix of all different types of genres, and I feel like there are probably some things going on with that, is all I'll say. Okay, let's look at audiobook. Funny Story 1. That was an excellent audiobook. I do not think that everybody who voted for this read the audiobook of it though, because it has 72,000 votes. I think the audiobook category is a really good idea. Like the top 20 is going to be the only thing that's actually accurate for the audiobooks, because I do think when Goodreads went through and picked audiobooks for this, they were looking at the audiobooks themselves, but I don't think everyone voting for those read the audiobook. Let's move on to nonfiction. The winner is The Anxious Generation. What are we reading from this? We are reading, I think, the disability one. Yeah. Which got 3,000 votes, which is surprising because I think it only had like 172 ratings when we picked it. Okay, memoir. This is the one we really have to care about because this is the one that we are actually reading. We are reading The Third Gilmore Girl, a memoir, which I could have guessed, but I'm not excited about because I've not even watched all of Gilmore Girls. I never watched it growing up, and I've seen like maybe a season or 2 of it. So that's tough. It won by like 50,000 votes. So it super won too. Okay, I guess that's what we're reading. What One History Biography, The Bookshop, A History of the American Bookstore. That's lovely. Very tender. Okay, those are all of the winners. I'm going to go find a copy of this Gilmore Girls book, which I think I'm gonna have to buy because there's no way I'll be able to get a copy of it from the library because it's so popular. Dang, that is not what I wanted to read. Okay, I'll see you later. Okay, maybe I was being a little bit dramatic about not liking this because so far I'm actually really enjoying it. We haven't touched on Gilmore Girls at all. We're following her early life as a ballet dancer and working as a chorus dancer on Broadway and off Broadway. She was working at Radio City in their ballet troupe. It's really, really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I thought it was going to be entirely all Gilmore Girls, but so far it's not. So if you've been avoiding this because you're not a fan of Gilmore Girls and you weren't sure if it was going to be for you, if you know this actor from other things that she's done, I think you would really enjoy it. And even if, like me, you really don't know her very much, I'm still having a perfectly pleasant time. I think it's very well written. I think the audiobook is narrated really well. The author narrates the audiobook, so that's always fun. It's been a great balm to my day because the day has not been going well. Halfway through my shower, when there was conditioner in my hair, the water shut off for like 4 hours and it just came back on and looks like this. Which was great. Eventually it ran clear and I was able to take a shower, so I'm feeling clean finally. I'm gonna finish reading this book while I go about my day. Dan and I are going on a sunset boat cruise tonight for date night, which is very exciting, so I'll take you guys along for that as well. And then I will see you in the morning to wrap up this book and wrap up this video because this is the last book we're reading. We're so close. I'm so excited. Okay, I have finished reading the third Gilmore Girl, and I really enjoyed this. It was only at the 75%, 80% mark that we even touched on Gilmore Girls at all. I really enjoyed following Kelly Bishop's entire career, from her days as a ballet dancer to working on Broadway to winning a Tony Award to her role in Dirty Dancing to, of course, Gilmore Girls, and her personal life and relationships and everything in between. I don't feel like I should be rating a memoir because it's just someone writing down their life story, so I'm not gonna rate it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought that I would, which is great because the last two books I enjoyed a lot less than I thought that I would, so I'm glad we're at least ending the video off on a high note. I'm actually curious about this one for people who went into this really excited because she is in Gilmore Girls and wanted that Gilmore Girls content. There wasn't really a lot in here, so let me know in the comments. Were you disappointed by that? Did you want there to be more insider Gilmore Girls stuff? Was it enough for you? I thought that's all this was gonna be and was not excited about that, so I was pleasantly surprised when most of it was not that. So that is our 13th book checked off. This has been an incredibly wild ride. Thank you so much for joining me for all 3 of these Goodreads Choice Awards videos. I had a really great time. I hope you did as well. If this is your first time to my channel, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. We are going to be continuing with the reading vlog shenanigans because I need to hit my reading goal. I am behind. So we're gonna hang out in my lovely home in Costa Rica and keep the reading moving right along. I also did just launch my channel membership, which I am having so much fun with. So if you want to join the archive, there are 2 different tiers you can join. We have reading sprints, a Discord chat, and we are reading our first book club book this month. So I'm going to be starting to read that as soon as I wrap up with editing this video. So we're reading The Teller of Small Fortunes, and I cannot wait to dive into that with my channel members. So if you want to join, there's a link in the description. You can also click the join button next to my name. Okay, that's everything. If you liked the video, I'd love for you to leave it a like, and please chat with me in the comments. I love answering your guys' comments. It's the best part of my day. I love you all. Let me know, did you read any of the Goodreads Choice Awards? What'd you think of them? Do you like Goodreads Choice Awards content? Do you want me to do a video series like this again next year? Let me know. Otherwise, I love you all and I will see you next week. Bye.